In June 2014, Maria Broaddus, her husband Derek, and their 3 young children were getting ready to move into their new home, 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. The 6-bedroom, $1.3 million house was their dream home, located only a few blocks from Maria's childhood home in what was then the 30th safest town in America, according to the website Neighborhood Scout. A mere 3 days after closing the sale, before the Broaddus family had even moved in, a letter arrived at their new mailbox. The new owner was written by hand on the envelope in thick, clunky letters. The typed letter began, quote, "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood," end quote. The letter, however, was anything but welcoming. It went on, quote, "How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time."
So it's like a Batman type, a silent guardian.
Yeah.
Just sounds like it's in his blood, you know?
It's a nice sentiment. If that sentiment, however, entails you doing some weird things, then maybe it's not a good family tradition. Who am I? There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one, end quote.
This is 2014 and he's writing like it's the 1800s here, like a little, it's a teaser.
I don't think that's what they're thinking.
Oh, well.
Also, like, I don't know how many houses you've moved into. I've moved into quite a few apartments. And even then, there's usually some kind of welcoming gift from like either the property owner, maybe even the neighbors will bring you cookies. If I walked into my new house and the first thing I saw was a letter that had this madness inside of it.
Nobody brought me cookies.
Nobody brought you cookies?
Actually, the first place I moved to in LA, somebody took a poop on the doorstep.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was big.
The letter also mentioned specifics about the Broaddus family. Quote, "You have children. I have seen them." The letter also mentioned specifics about the Broaddus family. Quote, "You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me," end quote. In a cursive font, the author typed the signature, "The Watcher." What do you think now? Do you think your original thought may be a little bit off base?
Yeah, maybe. I want to give him creep points for this very fun, old-timey threat of "I'm going to steal your children."
True.
He's like the Wicked Witch.
He's making himself into a caricature of a villain, for
Yeah.
sure. After receiving the letter, the Broaddus family reached out to the couple that had sold them the house, John and Andrea Woods. The previous owners said they have never received any letter like that in 23 years of living in the house, except once, a few days before they moved out. The Woods family said they never felt watched in the more than 2 decades at 657 Boulevard, and in fact, rarely felt the need to lock their doors. While they thought the note they received was odd, they threw it out without much concern. Well, this is kind of like when you buy a house and they didn't disclose to you before that either there were grisly murders inside of it or it's maybe haunted. And now you start having your chair stacked up on tables without you doing it.
This isn't something that the realtor, like if there's been a death they have to mention, they're not gonna be like, "It's beautiful, it's 2.5 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms, there's a watcher and a beautiful pool in the background."
No big deal, have fun with that. Still, the Woods family went with the Broaddus family to the police to report the letters. The police instructed the couples to not tell anyone about the intimidating mail, including their neighbors, who were all deemed suspects. 2 weeks later, with the Broaddus family still not moved in, a second letter arrived. Disturbingly, this message contained more details about the new owners, including their name, though misspelled, and their children's birth order and nicknames. The author also referenced seeing their daughter painting on an easel in an enclosed porch space, asking, quote, "Is she the artist in the family?" End quote. You know what's the most disturbing about that to me is the nicknames. Because it's one thing to look up people's like birth names. The idea that they would have nicknames, pet names, means that it gives you the idea that they may be listening.
Do you think he bugged them somehow?
It's possible. Who knows what this guy's capable of? That's, I guess, the premise I'm trying to set up.
Okay.
All right. Other parts read, quote, "It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better." End quote. After receiving this letter, Maria and Derek stopped bringing their children to the house and put a hold on their plans to move in. Several weeks after receiving this letter, Maria and Derek stopped bringing their children to the house and put a hold on their plans to move in. Several weeks later, a third letter arrived. Quote, "Where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard is missing you." End quote.
He's not good.
You don't like
Is
the way he
just
dances
calling
around?
the children young blood?
He calls them young blood, which like in some cases it's like kind of cool, like an older person comes
Hey,
like,
young
"Hey,
blood."
young blood."
Yeah, that's fun.
That's fun.
But
when
not
you're
a man who is
Young blood ruled the hallways of the house. He's talking about like them as little
kids
blood
running
bags.
around.
Little blood
yeah,
bags.
Yeah,
It's not good. However, by the end of the year, the investigation into who the watcher was had stalled. There was no digital trail, no fingerprints, and no way to place someone at the scene of a crime. Meanwhile, the stress was taking a mental toll on the Broaddus family. Derek said he was experiencing depression. Maria's therapist said she was suffering from PTSD, and both were afflicted with levels of paranoia that made much of their daily life seem threatening. Only 6 months after the letters arrived, they decided to sell the house. Due to rumors about the property, however, buyers were hesitant. The Broaddus family sued the Woodses for failing to disclose the threatening letter they'd received. A local reporter found the complaint, which included excerpts from the letters. His small story became a viral sensation, causing a media circus to swirl around the house. Now totally unable to find a buyer, the Broaddus family considered selling the house to a developer who could tear it down and split the property into 2 homes. The 2 plots, however, would each be less than 3 feet too small for the mandated size of the neighborhood. The Broaddus family appealed the rule to the neighborhood planning board, who unanimously rejected the proposal.
What's the logic in splitting it up into 2 homes?
It's like when something really bad happens at a hotel and then they just rebrand. It's kind of what they're trying to do here.
I see.
Which is like understandable. I just think it's crazy that the neighborhood was like, 3 feet too small, can't do that.
Hey, regulations are regulations, I get that.
That's baloney. Maria was understandably upset, saying, quote, "This is my town. I grew up here. I came back. I chose to raise my kids here. You know what we've been through. You had the ability 2.5 years into a nightmare to make it a little better, and you have decided that this house is more important than we are." End quote. It should be noted that in 2018, the Westfield Planning Board approved splitting up a different lot around the corner from 657 Boulevard, one that required a larger exception than the Broaddus family requested. This is just a bad neighborhood.
Or do we think, perhaps, is it a hot fuzz situation where everyone in the neighborhood
Is in on it.
and they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we don't want this new family here.
Oh yeah. That Christmas, some families who had vocally protested the Broaddus' plan received threatening hand-delivered letters signed Friends of the Broaddus Family. More on these later. In spring of 2016, just short of 2 years after the first letter arrived, the Broaddus family found someone to rent the home. The family had 2 large dogs, fully grown children, and a clause in the lease that let them out if there was another letter. Within 2 weeks, another letter arrived. Quote, "To the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria."
Okay, hang on. Oh boy. Before this, he's been very respectful, despite saying like, yeah, I'm gonna steal your blood children.
Yeah, he was really holding back before. Wench, too. He's still stuck with the Old English, though.
Yeah.
He knows theming. 657 Boulevard survived your attempted assault and stood strong with its army of supporters barricading its gates. My soldiers of the Boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and saved the soul of 657 Boulevard with my orders. All hail the Watcher, end quote.
All hail the Watcher!
All me and my minions, we all did it.
I've done it again.
I've done it
like
again.
my father and his father before him. Yeah, one thing I've always said, I've always gone on record saying, all hail the Watcher.
That's true, he has said that. He says it every day
Been my
when he
MO
walks
since
into the
day
office.
One, all hail the Watcher.
Starting-
I walk into Buzzfeed, morning, all hail the Watcher.
All hail the Watcher, and we do the same thing. It's like,
All hail the Watcher?
Yeah, all hail the Watcher.
I've got my big stomach tattoo that says that,
That's
but I don't
true.
want to reveal that right now.
There was HR complaints. The letter continued, quote, maybe a car accident, maybe a fire, maybe something as simple as a mild illness that never seems to go away, but makes you fall sick day after day after day after day after day. Maybe the mysterious death of a pet, loved ones suddenly die, planes and cars and bicycles crash, bones break. You are despised by the house and the Watcher won, end quote.
This guy sucks.
He's just really just shooting them out there. He's casting a wide net and hoping one of them sticks.
Yeah.
So that he could be like, if one of those things happens, he's gonna be like, all me.
Watcher, baby.
Orchestrated by the Watcher.
They're like walking down the street, they kind of trip on the sidewalk, and he's like, yes, all hail the Watcher.
Run out of cooking oil? Watcher.
Oh, a mosquito bite? No, hail the Watcher.
Oh, you just took a little poopy and you don't have any more toilet paper? Watcher, sorry. Despite the letter, the renters agreed to stay after more cameras were installed around the house. Now up to current day, it's time to look at suspects for who the Watcher could be. Our first suspect is a man I'm calling the Gamer. Around 11 p.m. one night, while two detectives from Westfield Police were surveilling 657 Boulevard, a car suspiciously stopped outside the house.